Hey guys, welcome back to Dream Analytica. I've received an overwhelming amount of support and regard to speaking about the anima and the animus, which I think is a really big and important topic in Jungian psychology, in psychology in general, understanding that we have this masculine and feminine side, woman and the man. And so what I really wanted to do is try to put everything together and try to take everything that we've learned on this channel in Jungian psychology and then tie it together with the help of our dreams. It's really all centered around dreams, like I've mentioned before in many of my previous videos. We're all trying to understand what these archetypes, what these symbols, what these subjective experiences mean in the context of reality, which is combined with the foundation of dreams. So dreams tie everything together. And again, it's really easy to understand in theory what the anima, the animus, or the shadow mean in theory, but it's very difficult to try to see those things, those aspects within ourselves. So dreams really help personify and illustrate what those characters look like within us, because it's extremely difficult. Jung put it that, as a matter of fact, Marie Louise von Franz put it that it is equivalent to try and seeing our backside. It's very difficult to see our own backside. And the only way to do that is by holding up a mirror to your backside or having somebody else explain to you what your backside looks like. But dreams sort of help us mirror those things and illustrate what those characters, what those symbols, archetypes look like within ourselves. Again, we're going to try to combine everything all together and try to see if we can come up with some sort of understanding about how all of this works in analytical psychology and why it's so important and why it matters so much to understand our dreams and our psychology. A lot of the questions that I get revolve around like when should you start doing dream analysis? I think Jung put it quite well. He says in the first half of life, we should develop our ego, and then in the second half of life, we should go inward. That's a pretty broad sort of direction in how we should approach this. Because what I've experienced in my practice, particularly amongst younger people, is that a lot of young people are actually hitting midlife a lot sooner because of most likely the way the world is at the moment. They're sort of having an existential crisis a lot sooner. That is making them, forcing them to wake up. That this rat race, chasing material, is not providing them with any sort of satisfaction to their general malaise, so to speak. This is why Jung provided this roadmap to help people later in life, uh, because that's when they realize when you hit midlife, you sort of wake up and realize, okay, where did all that time go? Where did all of that? Uh, you wake up and you realize that, like, okay, I haven't done what I said I was gonna do with my life, and then they wake up and they have this crisis where they, particularly for men, they end up, trying to chase their youth again, which is where you see men buy like a brand new car, chase younger women, get a divorce, so on and so forth. Um, with women, it's a little more, it's a little harder to see that. There's this, uh, for them, it's more inward focused, whereas men is more outward focused on in terms of the crisis. But again, what does this have to do with like uh, the animus, the anima, and so on and so forth? You need to integrate those parts of yourself um, in order to fully understand and know yourself, so that come midlife, you won't have that crisis, because when you do know yourself, when you come to know yourself, when you come to understand yourself and all these different parts of you, and live your life fully, there shouldn't be a crisis because there's no compensation that is necessary for you uh, to wake up to because you've lived fully, you've experienced life fully, and again, it is right to develop your ego, but again, I did mention that a lot of young people are experiencing midlife a lot sooner, the crisis a lot sooner. A lot of people are waking up and realizing, okay, I've made 10K this month, which was my goal. Now, what on earth do I do with my life? Which is a real case. That isn't just a random uh, example. That's a real case from a client that I have. It really starts with knowing yourself. And how do you go about knowing yourself? It's by understanding all these different parts of you, like we mentioned in the beginning, all these different parts of your psychology, to understand what they want from you. And then, simply put, it's building a healthy relationship between all these different characters within inside yourself. But you can't do that if you don't know what they look like. So, like I said, with within the context of this whole thing, which we were talking about, the anima, the animus, the shadow, like how do you identify those aspects within yourself? Well, the easiest way that I have found that you can do yourself, you don't need anyone else to do it for you, you could do this yourself, is you will have dreams. And they will appear in your dreams. So for men, the anima will appear most of the time as a woman. Equally, for women, the animus will appear most of the time as a man. Your shadow, if you're a man, will appear most of the time as another man. Equally, for a woman, your shadow will most of the time appear as another woman. And I say most of the time because you can't really generalize in terms of dreams. They're so specifically individual, you cannot make a general assertion about anything because for some people, their shadow might be of the opposite character, although it's less likely to happen in that way. So as sort of a general rule of thumb, though there aren't many rules in psychology because it's so subjective, you could say that for the most part, the shadow will be the same gender as the dreamer. Okay, so that's how you go about identifying. So okay, now you know this concept. Now you can say, okay, I'm gonna have a dream tonight, and I'm gonna see what the characters are. And you see if you're a man, if you see a woman, you could safely assert, okay, you could say that's that's going to be my anima. And this is just the initial phase because it's really deep stuff. Like you can't, like I said, you can't make generalizations. Sometimes uh, the anima in the dream may not actually represent the anima, but here I'm going into more nuanced dreams. The anima could represent an entire state of being, meaning like she could represent an entire feeling and not necessarily represent your soul in this particular dream. Or it could represent the actual person. Like if you have a dream about your girlfriend, it could actually mean, objectively speaking, that that woman in your dreams is a representation of the real woman, the real situation with that woman. Okay? But again, in a general sense, if you see a woman in your dream and you're a man, you could say, okay, that's my anima. Now you've identified her. And she will take many forms in your dream. She will take many forms. Equally for the woman, if you see a man in your dreams, you could safely assert, in general, that he's your animus. And depending on what your relationship with him is in the dream, you could say that that is my relationship with my inner man. And that's so much easier to understand. So this inner man, if you're a woman, will represent your masculine side. And every woman has a masculine side. Equally, every man has a feminine side. So you could say, depending on your relationship with this inner man, is he supportive? Is he malevolent? Is he benevolent? depending on your relationship, you could say that's the inner state you have with your inner man, your inner relationship with your inner opposite. And there you could start, it gives you a compass now, because then you could say, okay, if this inner man was being devilish to me, rude, completely arrogant, those qualities are within you. So you could say, this man that is in me, my relationship with him is not so great. He's malevolent, or he's devilish. He's the freaking devil. And then you could start to say, okay, if that's the case, what can I do to make or build or create a better relationship with my inner man? Now you have a direction to go towards. And you realize, like, this inner man inside you often takes over you. Like, let's say he's a benevolent male figure, a devil, if you want to call it that. You could say that during times of external trouble, uh, struggle, where you sort of seem to act out of character, out of nowhere. You seem to be very arrogant. You seem to be very annoying, devilish. You have many ideas that you don't really fully understand, and you have this sort of conviction that you are right. You could say that the inner man took over you, because your relationship with him was not good. So he got fed up and he took over you, and then he made you behave in that bad way. So you see now how the dream figure, we started from the dream, now we're taking it into the masculine side of the woman's psychology, and then you're able to see, like, okay, wow, so this character that I saw in my dreams, you have a personification of him. He's the one that caused all that trouble. And you could say the reason he caused all that trouble is because he's hiding in the corner somewhere, and I've never seen him before. You never knew he existed, but now you do. So you could say, okay, next time some situation pops up and I feel these tendencies come up, you could say the inner man is coming out. Okay, now that changes everything, because now you're becoming conscious, and the whole goal of psychology is to become more conscious. And so you could say, okay, this inner man is coming out. So I'm going to behave in a way that doesn't belong to me. I'm going to have thoughts, negative thoughts, ideas, convictions that don't belong to me. It belongs to this inner guy. And it's going to save you from so much trouble, from so much heartache, from so much problems, because you are now going to catch it before it happens. And that's the power of it. Equally, you do the same thing for men with your anima. You have a dream about a woman, and you can see what the relationship is like. Is the relationship good? Is she in a good condition? Like, is your anima crazy, or is she well kept? Is she smart? Is she stupid? Depending on whatever that state is, you could say that your inner feminine is that state. And a lot of men that I've spoken to, actually, their anima is in quite a good state. And the negative anima, like, she could be a seductress. She could be in a good state, but she's extremely beautiful, and she can seduce you. That seduction process, where you have these fantasies about these intimate fantasies with a woman, is the seduction of the anima, of the negative anima. What she's trying to do effectively is to lure you into a world of fantasy, so that it detaches you from reality. And then the man is left fantasizing about beautiful women, sexual situations, and so on. It's a primitive feeling, uh, which ultimately means, if you take that as a metaphor, what would the metaphor be for that? It would be a primitive feminine side, a primitive anima. So there, now you know, okay, I know what my inner woman looks like. I've seen her. She's in my dreams. She appears as either my partner or this girl that I met or had a crush on in high school or something like that. Um, those are telling signs. Like if she's a crush that you had in high school, that shows you the level or the state at which your anima is in, meaning in terms of development, she's still in high school. Your feeling side is still in high school, which is why you probably see her out of all the women that you've ever met in your life. It's your psychology specifically chose that girl you met in high school or had a crush on in high school. That shows you the state of her development. And then you continue with that and see, okay, what is the relationship like? Is she seducing me? Is she rude to me? Does she look like she's in a really bad state? So if she's in a bad state, you could say your inner feminine side is in a neglected state. You've completely neglected your feminine side or your feeling side, the eros, uh, probably because you're too logical. Maybe you've lived in this world of logic for a long time. So that's how you tie it together, and then you can sort of your goal then would be here to build a healthy relationship with that inner woman. And if your inner relationship is good with that inner woman, uh, what Jung, Jung called her the anima because the anima means soul. So if you build a healthy connection with that woman, you're effectively building a healthy connection with your soul. And it is your soul that gives you purpose and meaning in life. And she will help direct you uh, throughout life. And again, the goal is not to control her. If you're a man and you have a dream about a woman, the goal isn't to control her. Like just as you would not want to control your spouse, you want to love them. You want them to be free. You want them to be healthy. You want them to be strong and independent. Those qualities of that inner woman belong within you. And then you start developing your other half, and that's how you become whole. And later down the road, we'll get into the concept of the self, which is uh, effectively your inner opposite is the guide towards your totality, your inner self, the self, what Jung called the Godhead. So God is just an image for totality in dreams. If you see God, he's usually in uh, what we call the self, and the self is just an image of the opposites, a totality, yin and yang, effectively, a mandala, like a whole thing, a king and queen, and a kingdom. Those are all depictions, and usually in dreams that I have seen in clients of the self, and that's what we're trying to get to. All of us, we're all trying to get to that union, that integration of opposites to reach wholeness, and then you won't have a midlife crisis because you are whole. There's no compensation that's necessary. So that's kind of a uh, short explanation of how we are bringing all of these concepts together in Jungian psychology. I broke it down into bits because it's so complicated. It can be so complicated and hard to understand, and trying to bring it down to layman's terms can be a bit um, overwhelming. So breaking it down into layers of the psyche really helps. So you go from persona, which is our social mask, the ego, which is what we use to describe ourselves, like I am, and then you have the shadow, which is the opposite of the ego, right? The shadow of the ego. And then for men and women, you have the anima and animus. This is the like getting deeper now. And then there at the center of our psyche is the self, the thing that unites the whole thing. And then you have the collective unconscious, but that's quite advanced stuff that we won't get into right now. The collective unconscious, by the way, will usually appear in dreams as um, archetype, not like as archetypes. Archetypes are like um, I'm trying to word it in a way that makes sense to a broader audience, but they're primordial images, very old images, like if you see the like Gandalf or something like that. He's like the archetypal image of the old wise wizard or the old wise man. Or if you see Jesus Christ, he's like the archetypal image of totality, of God, of wholeness, or the Virgin Mary or something like that. Those are archetypal images. The Anima and Animus can have archetypal, uh, like symbolic personifications. Because the Animus is sort of like in the personal unconscious and the collective unconscious. It can go between the two. So that's why she's the connection. And so the collective unconscious is like the is sort of like the soup in which we all are connected to. Every human being is connected to that soup of the collective unconscious, where we share these archetypal images, primordial images. And again, we'll get to that in later stuff. But again, you see how it's connected to dreams. In your dreams, we tend to have different layers. Like we tend to have like dreams about our daily life or daily problems, and then you can have even deeper dreams about your specific role in the context of your life. And then you can have archetypal dreams where it's your role, uh, your specific role in the collective, the collective meaning of your life, the universal meaning of your life. And that's why it's so powerful, because those universal meanings of your life kind of show you your own mythology, your own story, and your meaning in the context of the universe, not just your own personal world. So that's kind of a dive. That's sort of a dip into trying to tie it together. I'm going to create more videos about how we can approach it in more detail and answer more questions, because I do receive a lot of questions. Like, I'll just get into this one because I think it's important, and I receive this question a lot. It's, I don't have any dreams, or I don't remember my dreams, which is fine. Some people don't need to focus on their dreams because maybe their life is fine. Maybe they're all right. But from what I have seen, and maybe the significant majority, um, they do need to pay attention to their dreams. And if they're not dreaming, you simply say, or I would simply say to you, that you do dream, you just aren't paying attention. And again, the goal of psychology is to pay attention, to become more conscious. So all you have to do is, if you watch this video and you don't dream, you do dream, you just have to pay attention. So tonight you're going to have a dream, and the very first thing you should do, I know it's hard, but write it down. I know you're going to want to fall back to sleep. Uh, don't worry, like when you write your dream and you sort of wake up a little bit, you might think like, I'm going to have trouble falling back asleep, and if sleep is important to you, I understand. But don't worry, the moment you write your dream, it's actually going to clear your mind a little bit, and you'll fall right back to sleep. I've done it, I do it. All my clients have done it this way. So you do dream, you just aren't paying attention. So tonight you're going to have a dream, write it down, and see what comes out, and see if you can identify the things that we talked about in this video, including your shadow, your anima, your animus, and so on and so forth. So thank you so much for watching. We'll continue this in another video and go into more details. I'll answer more questions. I hope you have a wonderful day.